Welcome everyone to the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast, a show where we talk to Black people who are engineers, innovators, educators, inventors, changemakers, and entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. The Bit Tech Talk podcast is where they show how they are stomping the divide by sharing their stories, experiences, ideas, knowledge, and perspective on tech with the Bit community.
Welcome everyone to the Blacks in Technology podcast, aka Bit Tech Talk podcast. This is our first podcast we've done in a while, and this is one of the first podcasts we've done as far as video, at least for Bit Tech Talk. And I'm excited about this because not only is it one of our first video podcasts, but it's our first featuring one of our chapter leaders. So I'm excited about that, excited to really get into this series, spotlighting our chapter leaders in a Bit Foundation and what they're doing locally to help stomp the divide. So with that being said, my name is Greg Greenlee. I'm the host of the Bit Tech Talk podcast. I'm also the founder of the Blacks in Technology organization. And I want to introduce our guest tonight, Bobby McNeil. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. Happy to be here, man. Excited to do this.
Yeah, so Bobby is he's a tech recruiting leader. He is also a former college athlete, and we'll talk a little bit about that. You actually won a college championship, which is pretty cool. I think you may be the first person I've met that's won on that level, so that's pretty cool. We'll talk about that. He's also the president of the Blacks in Technology Raleigh-Durham chapter. And we'll get into a little bit about that as well. But starting off, Bobby, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, your education, that type of thing.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. So it's in rural North Carolina. It's about maybe 30 minutes south of Raleigh, but still in the 919 area. So born and raised there, grew up there. Have an older sister. Both of my parents are still down there, actually. So. And, that's where I'm from. So I grew up in this area. Again, it's just south of Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham area. So I've seen it develop, my whole life. I know the Raleigh-Durham area, we have a lot of people who are, transient, right? They move here,
right.
But I've been here all my life. I've seen the tech scene really thrive and grow throughout my life. And, it was actually an all-star basketball player here in the state of North Carolina, pretty well-known prep star in my day. Yeah. And then, basically, went to college, got a full athletic scholarship, also got a full academic ride too. So a lot of people don't know that because they just focus on the athletic piece.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you said that, by the way.
Yeah. So I not only could I hoop, but I could also write a really good term paper. So I was really good at that.
You're probably pretty popular on the basketball team, man.
Yeah. Hey,
Bobby, I got this term paper coming up, man. Can you help me out?
Yeah, I got you. I see you at the practice, but yeah, man, did that. Went to college and went to Barton College, which is also here in North Carolina. Small school.
Okay.
Small school in Eastern North Carolina. Division II. So I played Division II athletics there. Played college basketball all 4 years, and won an NCAA national championship my senior year. Really excited about that. If you can see the screen, you probably see my jersey right there.
Yeah, I see it in the back.
Yeah, my high school jersey is right here. It's on another side. And, I was a 4-year letterman there at Fuquay-Varina High School, and won a national championship my senior year. That was a heck of a way to go out. And then I started my career in tech recruiting. So, I knew I was going to do something like in business, corporate America, things like that. So I started my career in tech recruiting. I've been doing it for over 15 years. I worked at some notable companies, tech staffing agencies, but also tech companies, most recently Amazon Web Services, and worked my way up the ranks, really got, well-versed in how to find diverse talent, but also how to source for, different types of skill sets, right? From software engineering, cybersecurity, data analyst, did a number of different, things that I've recruited in tech. I've recruited it all. Got successful, was able to run different, recruiting teams across the country and across the world. And, mentored recruiters, coached recruiters on best practices, did, DE&I initiatives, worked with HBCUs. And, then, nice. Found, Blacks in Technology, and started off actually as the vice president of communications. I joined back in 2022. So started
Okay.
off as a VP of communications. In 6 months, I was voted to be the chapter president, and the rest is history. So, and I'm not only I'm doing that, I'm also the national chair for career development and tech recruiting, and doing a whole bunch of different things here in the Raleigh-Durham area, and also here nationally. A whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff that I'm pretty sure we'll touch into. But that's my intro.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And what's cool about this podcast and what we're doing is Dennis gets to talk to a lot of you a lot of times, and I
Yeah.
don't. Like I know you all, but I don't get to talk to you and really get to know you as intimately as Dennis. So this is real cool and getting to know like your background, as well as how you got into becoming the chapter president and things like that, and what types of things you all are doing. But let's take this back just a little bit, because to your tech recruiting. Tell us, like, you go to college. You obviously uh, an all-star player in your state. So then you go to college and you start playing ball there. How did that whole thing come about as far as transitioning into tech recruiting?
Yeah, I'm one of the many people that we don't talk about that goes pro in something else, right? So I was yeah, I was a star athlete in high school. I was the man on the team. In college I was more
Yeah.
of a role player, but making that transition, I say from the ball game to the tech game, was a very like unique experience, right? So I had to really early on really figure out what I wanted to do. And you don't go to
Right.
college to be a tech recruiter. There's no tech recruiting major, right? There's HR majors, but there's no tech recruiting major. So
Right.
when I got in, I really was really trying to find something where I could work with people, but also work with people in more of a corporate setting, and really impact people's lives. And I kind of really
Mm.
stumbled on into recruiting in general, which is how most people find that profession. And I started, really at the bottom of the totem pole. I was a recruiting admin assistant. I was just basically managing the job boards and
Mm.
working through some of the different, screening documents and things like that, years
Right.
ago. And I was on the phones. Well, before I got on the phones, I was, sitting, in the what they call the pit area, right? And I was just listening to all these recruiters. They were talking to these like highly skilled, sophisticated tech people. They were talking about penetration testing and cybersecurity, offense versus defense, and back end
Right.
coding. I'm like, who are they talking to, right? And they just seemed to really really enjoy it. And I was like, okay, I want to try my hand in that. And I've always been highly competitive and ambitious and things like that. So I really wanted to get in the game and really learn how to do that. And what got me into it is that what I realized early on in my career, there really wasn't a lot of us, in the tech sector, right?
Right.
In that space. So I kind of looked at myself as a, a young Black man, somebody who, kind of had some skills and some knowledge. Like, how can I really, I'm always gonna try to make the best hire possible, no matter what somebody's, nationality or race is. But how can I make
Right.
a difference, and how can I learn more so I can, kind of make this impact? And I really started, listening to like dozens and dozens of phone screens and kind of like really picking up on these different things. And that's why I learned a little bit
Mm.
about software engineering, just listening to my fellow recruiters and managers, getting on phone screens and just kind of shadowing and just listen to
Right.
those repetitiously. And I learned the difference between, front end versus back end versus full stack software development. I
Right.
learned about all these different things so I could talk about it conversationally. And I just thought technology was just incredible. It's the ultimate equalizer. It balances everything out in our culture, and it
Mm.
it definitely it stomps the divide, right? You think about technology and all the things that it can do, from people in the inner
Hmm.
city to people in rural areas, right? It's the ultimate equalizer. So I'm not a technologist myself. I can't code, but I can talk to the people that code, and I can talk to the people who want people that can code. So I looked at
Right.
myself as the bridge. And that's really how I got into it, and that's why I'm passionate about it.
And I'm glad that you emphasized about picking the right person, despite race or nationality, because I think that's important. Because right now you have this narrative that a lot of people are pushing, that diversity, equity, and inclusion somehow equals lowering the bar. And that's far from the truth, right? Like as a tech recruiter, I'm glad that you can speak to that and say it's not about that. It's finding viable candidates that have the experience and have the skills, but also seeking out candidates that in places that you may not seek them out at, right? And bringing them in and giving them an opportunity. So I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because I think that's important.
Yeah, and if I can, just add one thing, like you're right, I hear
Yeah,
that a lot,
definitely.
and it's not about like diversity in tech recruiting or diversity in tech teams. It doesn't lower the bar, it raises the bar. Because the more diverse your teams are when it comes to innovation and design, the more global your product is and the more it touches more people. You want to have a different perspective in the design review meeting. You want to have a different perspective in the lab, right? When you're making these products, because they touch everything. Like Microsoft wanted to put a computer in every home. Apple, now, I don't know if you're an Apple person or Android person, but let's just use Apple, for example. They wanted to put a phone in every hand. You don't do that if you don't think about the totality of innovation and diversity and how it impacts everybody. So it doesn't lower the bar at all. It raises the bar. It makes teams more productive. It makes teams more innovative, and it makes teams more, globally aware when you have different perspectives in the room, no matter what their race, gender, nationality is. So it raises the bar.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, like this narrative that's being spun um, in the media nowadays is really disheartening, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
because I know from being an engineer and also being the founder of an entire community of Black people that are in tech, I get to experience all these different personalities, all these different skill levels and experiences and things like that. And I know for sure, like the people that I talk to, the people that's part of the big community are top notch.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going downhill because you choose to hire a person, a Black person, and that's not the case. And this narrative that's being spun, frankly, is dangerous to me. Um,
Yeah.
and you can, and I can see it like how it's kind of permeating throughout even the nonprofit organizations, like funding
Mm-hmm.
wise, like companies are pulling back funding because they don't want to be seen as supporting DE&I initiatives and things. I honestly like to say for BIT, I think the product that we and product as far as community and services is that we can kind of offer to potential employers and things like that. I honestly think that for us, it's not about the product that we offer is definitely in that realm of diversity, equity, inclusion, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're Black people in tech,
Right.
but that's not our objective, right? Like I don't know if people understand that when they get like, well, my objective is not to solve diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like you have different departments at these different corporations and government sectors that their job literally is to try to help solve this problem within their company or within their organization. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not like my intent when I founded Blacks in Technology. It wasn't that. It was I'm in tech. I want to talk to more Black people that are in tech. I want to build this community of Black people so that not only do we get to know each other, but we get to feed off each other as far as knowledge, support, that type of thing. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, it's about being economically sound, right? Like
Yes.
being financially, sound in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to see. And if the byproduct of that is helping your company in some way, then that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But the primary mission of Blacks in Technology is to increase the representation and participation of Black people in tech, not because I want to see more Black people at Facebook. It's because I want to see more Black people in tech going after that money so they could start creating generational wealth. And not only that, but being in those spots so they can help steer where tech is going.
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely. And yeah,
that's important as well.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I agree.
go ahead.
No, I was just
Go
saying
ahead.
I 100% agree. It's
Yeah,
there's different pathways to that. Sometimes it's being a tech business owner or a tech entrepreneur, and we provide
yeah,
resources for you to do that. So sometimes, like, entering into tech is not necessarily getting hired at Google. If you do, that's fantastic, right? And if
right.
we helped you do that, that's great. But sometimes it's putting the tools
Yeah,
and resources in front of you and making sure you have access to the technology so you can maybe build something of your own or build the infrastructure through technology of a business and an entrepreneurship,
right.
right? So sometimes it's
Yeah,
that. Sometimes it's just the knowledge with all the products and resources and boot camps and things that we provide. So I
yeah,
100% agree.
yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because that's highly important too. The resources that Bet provides and the opportunities as well is key in what we're doing. So um, let's get back to you being a college athlete, because I have met you in person. I did notice how
Mhm.
tall you were, but I wasn't going to be that person to say, "Hey, man, can you hoop?" But now that I know that you hoop, speaking of hoop, like so, my youngest son, he plays basketball, sixth grade. He's pretty slick actually, and
Yeah.
I train him. I
Mhm.
played basketball, but more rec ball for many years. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I take him to the gym. I got all the equipment. I train him. I watch videos to figure out how to increase his skill set in one area and things like that. And he's really good. But I was out
Mhm.
back the other day, and I got an older son. He's 14, and he's a
Uh-huh.
swimmer. Uh, I mean, and muscular, and he's got a swimmer's build, strong as I don't know what, man. So I'm
Mhm.
showing my younger son a no, actually, I played him because he was playing my younger son and getting the best of him, even though he's not a hooper, but he's just bigger and faster than my youngest son.
Mhm.
So I was like, all right, I'll avenge your loss. I'll play. And man, don't you know I threw my my back out, stepped wrong or something like that.
Man.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. So I'm dealing with that as well today, man. On top of the dog stuff that was going on, like just hobbling around, like holding my back. I'm feeling like an old man. But let's talk more about like you being an athlete and kind of
Mhm.
what things from you being an athlete has benefited your career as a tech recruiter and as a career coach as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the key things that, I think is number one, if I was telling, when I talk to, young men who are making that transition, young men and women actually who are making that transition from like college athletics to like the corporate world, I always tell them never lose your competitive edge. I
Mm,
think college athletes and athletes in general, and there's people who are non-athletes too, but just speaking about, athletes, we have
right.
that competitive drive in us, right? And I always tell, individuals never lose that. You can use that for good, right? So,
Hmm.
never lose that competitive edge, never lose that drive.
Right.
It's not necessarily like competing against your coworkers or anything like that. And sometimes it's healthy to do that, but a lot of times, after you lead the ball game, it's competing with yourself. Competing against yesterday's version of yourself. Like, what can I do
Mm,
each and every day to get better? You know, what
right.
new skill can I learn, this month? What new skill can I learn this quarter? Like, even they say in basketball, like a basketball player, you get better in the off season. You don't get better during the season because during the season you playing games.
You're
You on a
playing.
plane, train, automobile. You in the weight room. You in the classroom. You get better in the
Yeah.
off season. So what it teaches you as
Yeah.
well is discipline and self accountability, right? To make
Mm,
sure that you're always leveling up your skills. And I think that's one of the things that helped me move and elevate in my career and become such a respected and trusted voice in the industry. Is that I was always willing to learn new things because even in recruiting, things change.
yeah.
Employment laws change, how you attract talent changes. And if you're a tech recruiter, the technology changes every 3 years, right? So you always have to
Yeah.
be practicing and always have to, keep learning new things. Also,
Yeah.
I've been on winning teams. Obviously, you see the jersey, and I think you might be able to see they give you a copy of the trophy right there. I don't know if you can see it. So, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I say all that to say not to brag, but I say I've been on winning teams, but also I've been on losing teams. And I've been on
Mm,
winning teams where we went on losing streaks or had slumps. So one of the things that I learned about, that I took into my career is being poised, always staying poised, because you don't want to get too high in the high moments
Yeah.
where you get too cocky and you get too full of yourself and you think you're
Yeah.
invincible and indestructible. There's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to be in a valley a little bit and not get too high in the highs, but also not get too low in the lows. And kind of just
Mhm.
staying even keel, enjoying the victories and the wins when they come and celebrating those and celebrating yourself and your hard work. But there's gonna be a valley, but that's
Oh yeah.
life. That's why it's a journey. It's called a journey because there's ebbs and flows, right? So being able to
Yeah.
just be conscientious about what those things are and just staying poised. Hard work, what I think I talked about, working smarter and not harder, and just knowing your craft. I think those are the big things really that I learned. Being coachable. This is one of the things I'm putting in my book. Always be coachable, no matter how skilled you are, no matter how
Mhm.
experienced you are in something, you always need some sort of coaching in some shape or way or form in your career. Even if you're like a high level, back end developer, you're always
Right.
going to need coaching, because things change, or whatever industry that you're in. No matter how
Yeah.
seasoned a professional you are, how skilled you are, you're going to need coaching at some point. So always remaining coachable, I think, is key.
Yeah, I think those are great points. Especially the off. I mean, I love that about the off season. You get better in the off season, and the way, to me, the way I look at it, how it translates in tech is the off season is your downtime. I think because tech is so continuous as far as how technology evolves, you constantly have to be on that grind of continuous learning. And it's harder to, of course, there's always it, during work, you have to do research, you have to, figure things out. But a lot of times it's all about trying to figure out a solution while you're at work. And I've always found, at least within my career, that the way that I get better is, not is during, off hours. Hour here or a couple hours here, 30 minutes here, like whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's like, it's there's the discipline really, to me, lies in staying consistent, as opposed to how long you're gonna like study or something like that. Like I tell my son all the time, the one who plays basketball, I'm like, you know what? I was like, you may not be able to get 2 hours in or an hour in at the gym all the time, but go downstairs in the basement, set up some cones, and do 15 minutes worth of dribbling. Like
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
around the basement. Just work on that for 15 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not a huge time suck or anything like that. And you'll be surprised if you do that consistently, how much better you're going to be than everybody else. Because they may
Yeah.
only do it once or twice at practice, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that I try to instill in them from an athletic standpoint, but also from a tech standpoint. I was a team lead for a company, consulting company, and that's one of the things that I would, whenever we met, when I met with one of the team members, one of the things that I would tell them, like, yeah, you have this goal, you want to do this by this. I'm like, well, and they're like, yeah, I just don't know how much time I have. Like, I do this. I'm like, well, just do 30 minutes of reading. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people think that you got to do 4 hours worth of reading or something. No, you half hour, hour. If you want to do an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's fine. A lot of times there's more negative effects to that than positive, because you start losing
Yeah.
concentration. You're not retaining the information or anything like that. So let's just do
Mm-hmm.
a half an hour of really focused reading, or an
There you
hour
go.
of really focused, and it'll pay dividends because if you do it consistently. So I'm glad that you brought that up and mentioned that, because that's key, not just in tech, but in careers as a whole, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about Raleigh-Durham. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember someone from that area reaching out. This was like years ago, before we had a chapter, and they wanted to start a chapter. And the first thing they said is they call it the Triangle. Is it Triangle Park, or is that
Research
what they
Triangle
call that
Park.
area?
Yeah.
Research
Yeah.
Triangle Park, right?
Yeah. But we
Uh,
got a few different names.
and
I'll say them in a
okay,
second, but we got a few different names.
yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit, like if somebody decided, like, hey, I want to move to Raleigh. I want to, for a career, and so like, what can they expect from the area?
Yeah. So, this is a conversation I always love to have because even, as chapter president, I have these conversations a lot, but also as a tech recruiter, I have these conversations a lot with people who want to move, relocate here to North Carolina. I'm
Right.
also on the board of advisors for NC Tech, North Carolina Technology Association. So I love this,
Okay.
but
Nice.
Raleigh-Durham is like really the tale of two cities, right? So they're like basically right next to each other on the map, So it makes
Hmm.
sense for us to have two cities in one chapter. It didn't make sense for us to have a Raleigh chapter and a Durham chapter. We just need to have one chapter because there's a tale of two cities.
Okay.
Both rich in history. The Research Triangle Park area is an area right between Raleigh and Durham that hosts all these different science companies, biotech companies, tech companies. It's like acres. It's like literally a
Mm.
park. And all these tech companies are just lined up in a row. And they have like these campuses here, like headquarters, like all in a row. And that's why they call it Research Triangle Park, because in North Carolina or in the Carolinas, that's where all the innovation happens, right? So a lot of these tech companies are headquartered here, or they have their second or third headquarters here. I give you an example:
Okay.
Amazon Web Services. Their HQ1 or headquarters one is in Seattle, Washington. Their
Okay. Yeah.
HQ2 or headquarters two is in the DMV area. But they
Okay.
were actually looking to put their headquarters two here in Raleigh-Durham, but they decided to. I think
Mm.
they decided to move it to Arlington, Virginia, for like tax reasons. But this is the
Right.
center of innovation for North Carolina, the Carolinas, period, right? So
Right.
basically, we have a lot of different industry here, right? A lot of different industry.
Hmm.
We have a lot of different, different types of entrepreneurships that are happening here. Durham is one of the top places for entrepreneurs, right? The Google Startups has a whole program in Durham, North Carolina,
Oh,
right
nice.
there in the area. So you get a lot of like different variations of different types of people that live here, right? A lot of the people that live in Raleigh-Durham aren't actually from Raleigh-Durham. We get a lot of people from New York. We get a lot of people from the Midwest and Chicago, Ohio. We get
Mm.
a lot of people from California. California is increasingly growing as far as the cost of living. So I had a
Yeah.
conversation with a candidate not too long ago. I was like, "Well, why North Carolina? Why?" He was like, "Well, we have a Silicon Valley there. You guys have somewhat of a Silicon Valley in Raleigh-Durham." So the two
Nice.
translate.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, you have North Carolina or Raleigh-Durham has all these prestigious universities that are right
Yeah.
around each other. You got North
Yeah.
Carolina State. You
Yep.
got UNC Chapel Hill, Duke University,
Yep.
North Carolina Central University at HBCU, and not too far
Mm.
away, you got North Carolina A&T. So it's like I could come here and
Yeah.
I can get advanced education, advanced degrees. Wake County is one of the best public school systems in North Carolina, if not the best. I think it's like always number one and number two since I've been in school. And another reason why this gentleman wanted to move from California to North Carolina is because you guys also have beaches and mountains on either side. So I always say Raleigh Durham is where you come to have life and have life more abundantly, per se. So
Nice.
that's what you'll experience here. It's a very active tech hub. A lot of times I don't think we get the shine we deserve because we're not like a big city. We're a
Mm.
nice sized city. We're not a big city. We don't have the immaculate skylines like a New York or LA. And shout out to them. Love both cities. Been to both of them. But I think sometimes
Right.
we get overlooked with the flashiness. But tech
Right.
lives in Raleigh Durham, and we have an exciting, engaged member base at Blacks in Technology. They're very engaged. They just love this area, and they're always looking for ways to network and do events. And that's what we do here as a chapter.
That's excellent. That's excellent. It's good to hear all those wonderful, exciting things about the area. In case I might want to move from Ohio, I'll be one
Yeah,
of those.
it's always one of the top 10 places to live. It's always one
Really
of the top 10 places to
nice.
live. Yeah, it's like we're on every list every year. Top places to live, top places for professionals. Very diverse area. We're not DC or in Atlanta, but we have a black tech professional nucleus here. The cost of living
Nice.
is relatively inexpensive. And we're
Mm.
in a great area. We're right in the middle. If you want to go to the DMV is here. Atlanta's right here. Raleigh,
Right.
Durham, and then our brothers and sisters down in Charlotte, they right next to us. So it's a great area. The
Right.
weather's nice, and it's thriving here.
Very nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of I know you started talking a little bit about, the why, the bit members and how, the activity there at the chapter. How did you first hear about bit?
Yeah, so in my tech recruiting career, I was doing a lot of things with like, diversity recruiting and coming up with creative ways to
Mm,
attract talent. When I was working at the big, these big tech companies during that time. I was, doing a lot of that, as far as my career, but I'm always thinking of ways like what can I do outside of my day-to-day work, to kind of give
hmm
back, right? I have a,
right.
kind of a heart to serve and lead and things like that. So I wanted to see if there was something maybe here locally. Um, I'm a tech recruiter, so I checked out Nesby. But I'm not necessarily an engineer, but I wanted to like
Right.
where's a organization or somewhere I can go where I don't necessarily have to be a technologist, but I can
Mm,
still be part of the organization. And
right.
I fit the criteria to be a member of Blacks in Technology. Um, and I, came across it. Had a conversation with the president at the time, who was actually, still on the board, and kind of shared my passion for wanting to be a part of it, just to really kind of have a sense of community, and also find out what I can do as a Black tech recruiter, because there's not really many of us Black tech recruiters. Like,
Right.
well, here's a way. What's a way I can give back to the members in the community here in the Raleigh-Durham area? And had a conversation with her, and then she was like, "Well, have you thought about maybe having more of an expansive role?" So I was like, what does it look like? Right. And if, a few weeks
Mm,
later, had some conversations with, some of the, existing board members at the time. And, I was on the board, and, she thought that would be a great way for me to be in a position where there could, be some exposure, some sort of elevated, role where I'll be able to kind of charter those things. So that's how I found out about it. Just wanted to do more, outside of my career, to kind of add a supplement to
yeah.
what I was doing. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'll say this, like we're happy to have someone like you in that position. I mean, Raleigh, the RDU chapter is consistently one of the most active chapters, and the events that you all put on are always tops. And then you're always like making sure that everyone knows about what you all are doing. You're sharing pictures and things like that all the time. I'm constantly reposting your stuff on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
everywhere. So um, excellent, excellent. So let's do a little roll call. Let's go down the names and the roles of the leaders of the RDU chapter.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a lot. So I'm definitely
Okay.
gonna make sure I don't forget anybody. But we have Tanisha Cruz, who is also
Yep.
immediate past chapter president, and she was also
Mm,
one of the co-founders of the chapter some years ago. She is
yeah.
currently our VP of membership and engagement. Her role is really important, because she comes up with all of these incredible ways to make sure our members stay engaged and also to recruit new members. And she's
Nice.
really the engine behind a lot of our events. She's really good at curating events.
Okay.
Really thinking about the member experience and the guest experience. So she's done a number of different things. The Melanin Mixer that we had back in October, she was really the driving force behind that. All I
Nice.
really did was make up the flyer and come up with the name, but she was the one. She was the one that made that Friday night in October in downtown Durham magical. So hats off to
Very
Tanisha.
cool.
Then there's LaShonda Rogers. She's our
Yep.
vice president of community outreach. She is very instrumental in making sure that we have these community connections and these community ties in the Raleigh Durham area in a real way. She
Mm,
definitely connects us with school system, also different nonprofit organizations as well that share the same mission as ours also, and to kind of help push us forward. Anything that you see us do with the school system, anything that you see us do from a government standpoint, she's really the backbone behind that. So that's her
nice.
role. And then we have Barrett. He's our vice president of finance. He's more behind the scenes. I have people on my team that are more, front of the scenes, more,
Right. Yeah.
extroverted. But then I also have people on my team who are more introverted, more behind the scenes, and they're just as valuable. And I wanted to mix it up that way. But he makes sure that, we are as frugal as possible. And making sure that, we keep our money where it needs to be, but also make sure we're putting our money towards the right things, our chapter funds. So, shout out to
Nice.
Barrett. And then we have Robin, who is one of our newer members. She's the VP
Okay.
of administration. She came from the Charlotte chapter, and I
Okay.
know the Charlotte chapter. They were an award-winning chapter earlier
Yeah.
on. Once I found out she was, moving to Raleigh-Durham, I'm like, really? Like, let's talk. So I talked to the former president Natasha. She vouched for 100%. Talked to some other people there that was like, yeah, we love Robin. She'd be an incredible asset to your team. She's very big because she does a lot of stuff, administrative stuff for us behind the scenes. She's really good with data analysis. What we find is that a lot of companies that we work with, they want to know about the demographics of our chapter and what that looks like. So she's been very
Mm,
instrumental in us kind of having a putting together data and information that we can present to potential sponsors who want to know a little bit more detail, not only about our national or global membership, but our RDU membership. So she's real big in
right.
that. Brentley Wright, he is one of our newer members. He is our vice president of DE&I initiatives.
Okay.
He's a personal friend of mine. I call him like the DE&I evangelist in our leadership group. He works at the diversity movement. This is really part of his work. So it
Hmm.
kind of really coincides to what we do. Once we, strategized at the beginning of the year, I realized that, as we talked about before, D&I was like under attack. And we
Yeah.
thought it'll be great to have somebody on our leadership team that we can bring into our events when we're working with corporations to really talk about DE&I in a real honest, passionate way.
Mm,
I wanted
it's
to,
a
I
good idea.
handpicked him specifically for that. And he definitely fills that gap for us. Norris is our vice president of university engagement. Norris is the life of the party on the chapter team. So he makes everybody laugh. He keeps, everybody's spirits high and things like that. He's real passionate about, students. He's an
Yeah.
HBCU alum. He went to North Carolina Central University, just right here in Raleigh-Durham. But so he's very involved with HBCUs, very passionate about that. But we don't want to forget about our young brothers and sisters at the PWIs too, right? At the NC States,
Yeah.
at the Dukes and the Carolinas. So he's doing great
Right.
work right now and making sure we reach out to those, young, brothers and sisters as well who might not necessarily be at the HBCU, but they're Black and wanting to get into tech, and we want to make sure they have a place of belonging. So he leads that effort. Nicole Hargrove, she's our vice president of technical education and learning. She has dedicated her whole career to creating pathways for minorities to learn about technology and setting kind of learning pathways for them. I thought it would be incredible for her to be on our board. When we go to these meetings, when we now no, not necessarily when we go to these meetings, but we have these are our events, right? I get a
Right.
lot of questions about like, hey, like what certification do you recommend, this and that? And like I said, I can talk about technology conversationally as a tech recruiter, but
Hmm.
we needed somebody that was going to dive deep. And Nicole is that
Right.
person that can dive deep with people, right? So we got,
Mm,
a lot of different plans that we're going to do with her about really, in a formal and informal way of educating our members about, educational pathways they can take, and also aligning that with the offerings that we already have. So, and then we have our board
nice.
members. We have Eric, DJ, uh, and Rosa. They play big roles for us because these are all co-founders. They were with the chapter
Okay.
at the very beginning, right? Their voice
Mm,
as board members and also co-founders is very instrumental because they keep everybody honest, right? Because they were here from the beginning. They make sure that
right.
we stay on we stay on that mission, stay on that path. So their knowledge and their wisdom is very important as we, our decision making processes and how we plan our year. And we also have Andrea. She is the lead, the Black ERG lead at Cisco. So strategically, we wanted to bring
Nice.
her in. And she does a lot of things. She's working on a lot of cool and interesting projects with us, like our newsletter. We started a member spotlight. So she's working through those things and really kind of spearheading those initiatives. And then we got Gary, who's on one of our newest members as well. He has a military technical background. So we thought that would be
Okay.
great also to kind of bring that in as well, because we don't want those brothers and sisters to be forgotten too. And
Yeah.
he has that
No doubt.
experience because he is serving. He uses
Mm,
technology. He is a
right.
technologist. And I know we got, brothers and sisters down in Fayetteville, down in Fort Bragg that, we can reach out to. So that's the board. Raleigh-Durham, we got a large team. I will say, I have a really great team. I think we had
Sounds like
founders that, yeah, we had founders and people that came before me that really kind of set the foundation, for me
right.
to come in with all my new ideas and flyers and hey, let's do this, hey, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
go over here to SAS, let's go over here. Like, they set a foundation for me to really come in and build. So I always want to pay homage to them because they did an incredible job, in the earlier years, really setting that foundation and that framework for me to come in and with all these interesting, great, and illustrious ideas. So
Yeah.
shout out to them. Yeah.
Definitely shout out to them. Like you all could write a chapter blueprint book just about the way you all operate. No, seriously, like,
Yeah.
this is no knock on any of the other chapters. I know specific chapters don't have the resources, whether it's or even they may be new to the operation side of running a chapter as a whole, and it's not an easy kind of, oh, I'm going to spend 15 minutes on this and for the week. And like, there's time that you have to invest in getting things up and running, reaching out to different corporations, organizing events, reaching out to possible potential speakers, getting
Mhm.
members or the community involved. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and you all have really created a good blueprint, as not from a personnel standpoint, but also the different roles, because
Mhm.
they're I would say, in some chapters there's like one or two people and they're taking on the roles of all that, right? And it's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you can have more people in those roles, then that allows you to be able to kind of concentrate on what your specialty is, and then bring all that together in a probably a more polished uh product, so to speak. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you, mentioning that. And, that was something that, when I came into, this year, I was like, okay, I wanted to, my first year as president, last year, I really like wanted to take a year to kind of really assess things. And like, I was like, okay, we need to make some like some minor, small recalibrations here. But then I had the
Mm,
wherewithal enough and the awareness enough. Okay, we need to bring in new members, right? So I had to propose a whole, kind of new structure and system to the team, which, they bought in,
right.
right? So, like even as
Mm,
president, I still had to get, the not necessarily the permission, but their buy-in, right? Because it's a
right.
team effort, right? And then had to go and
Right.
get Brentley and get Andrea and all these other people as well. So the structure that you see is, just as a leader and as a president, really sitting back, looking at, okay, let's fine tune this, and then let's add these four pieces to the wheel so we can keep the ball rolling. And but yeah, I think everybody does an incredible job. We delegate. It's a team effort. I don't really get caught in the weeds a lot as a president. They start initiatives, they have their own projects and things that they work on, and I just go at it, like, and I just let
Yeah.
them do it. So it's really a team effort because, as you mentioned, I can't have my hands on everything. You'll get burnt out like
Yeah.
that real quick, right? So you definitely
Yeah.
want to build a team, find out what people are good at, empower them to do it, give them a role, give them some goals, and really, create roles that, from an organizational standpoint, make sense, and let people do their thing, and watch everybody kind of grow and flourish. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, and man, your leadership skills, just from that segment alone, it lets me know that you're the right person to be doing this, because you're the type of person, just hearing you speak right now, that um, you're not micromanaging. You're allowing people to do what they do best and bring that all together into something that it will make the team stronger. And you're more of that servant leader. Like, hey, like I'm here to support what you want to do. Yeah, I have ideas. I'm going to run it past you all. See how that pans out. Bring all of your other ideas together, the things that you're good at, and the things And I'm going to be hands off. With
Hmm.
certain things, let you all do
Yeah.
that and empower you all to do it, and that makes for a more healthy environment as a
Yeah.
whole anyhow, right, when you're like
Yeah.
that. So
Absolutely.
good
I just
stuff,
let them
good stuff.
cook. I don't got to be all in the
Yeah,
kitchen and all in the pot. Just let them cook. And they everybody they do incredible stuff. I'm like, okay, great. So
right,
yeah.
right. It's easy when it's like that, right?
Yeah.
Definitely easy. So tell us a little bit about the Black creators on LinkedIn, man. Like, from your bio, you were recently named to the Power 50's top Black creators on LinkedIn. So tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Yeah, so it was, last year in 2023, I really wanted to make it a point of not being a recruiter that only posted just jobs. Those things are important, right?
Mm,
But I really wanted to find ways
yeah.
to, give tidbits of perspective, advice, wisdom, to an audience that I believed it could benefit, right? So it
Mm,
was really just like, posting little nuggets of wisdom. I did a thing last year called Free Game Fridays. I was just giving people, interview tips, resume
okay.
advice, but I also tried to make it engaging. I didn't want it to be plain and ordinary. I wanted to make it so
Yeah.
people could, resonate with what I was saying, but also they could take something practical and use it. I've been on a number of different podcasts in the industry. So when the hosts send me things, I post it on LinkedIn, and hopefully it helps some people. So I went on a whole podcast tour last year. Did
Nice.
that, had, spoke at some conferences. If some snippets came back, I posted it on there, so people would know I was speaking. I was on podcasts, but also I used to handpick
Right.
stuff like, okay, let me use my discernment. What are the people saying? What do they need to hear? They need to hear this. So I would put it out there.
Mm,
And without even knowing or not even looking for any accolades or awards or any self-aggrandizement, I got a message saying, from a pretty well-known content creator in this space, saying, hey, congratulations, you've been named to the Power 50 and you've been voted on by your peers in the industry. So I was very, very excited and very honored to be that. That wasn't what I was going for, but
yeah.
I'll receive it, and I think it meant a lot to me because when you're voted into something on a list or a top list, or you get an award or some recognition, and it comes from your peers. I mean
Yeah.
that's a real big stamp of approval because they're doing the work that you're doing, and they see you as
Exactly.
somebody that they respect. So yeah, I really really appreciated that honor. We'll see if I'm named to the list again in 2024. So
Well, good luck with that, man. That's definitely
yeah.
something to be proud of, for sure. Um, Tell us a little bit about the book you're writing.
Yeah, so I'm a first time author. I'm writing a book. I'm in the process as we speak. I started writing the book back in October of last year, and this was actually uh, s- a, a presentation that I did at a couple of tech conferences last year, and it got rave reviews. Like people, multitude of people were talking to me after I spoke, and people were just in my DMs and inbox, like, "Hey man, can you expound on this? Can you tell me more about this?" And the presentation I did, when you go and speak at these conferences, you got to give your, what do you want to do? What are you going to write about? Your deck, and it was
Right.
cracking the code, 10 possible reasons you didn't get the job. That was the presentation, and I had some slides, went through it, and like I said, people loved it, and I was like, how can I expound upon this, because people wanted more. And I was
Right.
like, well, I think I might turn this into a book. So
Mm,
basically, that's the name of the book. It's called Cracking the Code: 10 Possible Reasons You Didn't Get the Job. It's very candid. I'm honest, truthful. What it is that it talks about some of the common pitfalls that job seekers face when they're looking for a role. But one thing it does also do as well, there are reasons on here, and I wanted the audience to know this, and I'm working through this now, that sometimes these reasons why you didn't get an opportunity has nothing to do with you. There's certain indicators and environmental factors that are happening in the job market right now that have nothing to do with you, right? So there's going to be a level of accountability on the corporate side and from to my fellow recruiters in the game, but it's also going to really be telling people why. I don't think we tell people as career coaches and tech recruiters, we tell people what to do, but we don't tell them why they need to do what they need to do. So this is 15 years, 16 years of experience that I've had talking to people at multiple levels across various industries. And I want to give the people why. Right. So there's going to be data in there, studies that I'm going to reference that are going to support my professional recommendations and theories and notions. It's going to be somewhat autobiographical too, because I'm going to pull from instances as a tech recruiter, but I'm also going to pull from instances as a job seeker as well, because we've all been job seekers at one point. So there's a mixture of reasons to have something more to do with the job seeker, but there are reasons in there in the book that have something to do with what's going on in the world. And you know, I think I'll give you an example. There's one chapter that's going to be talking about a tight job market. That has nothing to do with you as a candidate. That's just the, you know, the factors around. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about these layoffs, why the layoffs are happening. There's a lot of misinformation going out there by people that are speaking about layoffs, and it's just that's not why people are getting laid off. So people are going to know the truth. People are going to know why these things are happening. We're going to talk about unconscious bias and bias in general in the selection process and broken recruiting practices. So it's going to hold people on the other side of the table, my peers, accountable as well. And if it don't apply to you, then let it fly. But but the book is coming. I had a cover reveal about a month or two ago, and I'm using a publisher. Yeah, and it's good. We're looking at a summer 2024 release date.
Man, that's huge, man. That's congrats on that, man. That's gonna be good. That's gonna be good.
Yeah,
And when it comes out, definitely let me know, because I definitely love to promote it. Just from the standpoint, I mean, you know, you're part of the BIT organization, but just being part of the community, like that's something that that I like to do as well. It's like when I see that someone is doing other things that it doesn't necessarily have to do with the organization itself, and they're doing some other things to help like the community. I love to spotlight that type of stuff, right? So when it comes out, man, let me know, and we'll do a feature on that for sure.
Yeah, we'll do. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted for sure.
Okay. So a couple more questions before we get out of here. So what do you enjoy most about being the chapter president of BIT RDU? Like, what are some of the things that you're just like, man, this is amazing. This is why I do this.
You know, I'll say, you know, just the response from our members and the Black tech community in Raleigh-Durham as a whole. Like, you know, we put on a lot of events, but you know, I'm the chapter president. You know, I'm like somewhat of a micro influencer in the industry. I'm a top voice, but it's not really about me. It's really about the members. Like I said, I grew up here. You know, I've seen Raleigh-Durham grow and develop into this tech hub. And one of the key things, you know, even, you know, being a Black professional in general and just being highly networked here, you know, we give people, when we do these events, we give people a place to belong, right? That's what they want. They want a place to belong. They want a place where they feel safe. And not necessarily, I'm not talking about safe physically from danger, but just, you know, just safe, like I'm home, right?
Yeah.
And we also do a lot of work to make sure when we partner with these companies that there's some sort of talent acquisition pathway. And these are the things our members want. And when I go to an event, like sometimes I just kind of sit back and watch and just like, you know, we're doing a good thing here, you know, and I just love to see the smile on people's faces. I love to see people making connections with other members and other people that are non-members that come, and seeing friendships formed at a BIT Raleigh-Durham event, you know, and, you know, it was we had the Diversitech Connect mixer here in Durham not too long ago, which was very
Yeah.
successful. And it was this group of girls over there talking, and they like hanging out now outside of bit stuff,
Yeah.
and they talking about like their careers and, I do this, I do that. Have you experienced that? So it's just having that place where people can make connections and get real information from each other. Like as leaders, they may not always get the information from us, but we have smart, bright, intelligent members who know a thing or two as well. So we don't
Right.
always have to be, as leaders, the source.
Yeah.
They can be the source for each other, and to be
Yeah.
able to curate that and put those people in a room where we can find a topic that they care about and get trusted people to talk about that, create a talent acquisition pathway, but then at the same time having them have that place of that pocket of affirmation. That's what I love most about it.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. It's always about the members, and it's always about the community I grew up in. So that's what I love
Yeah.
about
I have to say, BitCon is always like the pinnacle of the year when it comes to like just happiness and because you go to BitCon and you see all these different relationships being formed and just friendships being formed. And not only that, like you said, man, like there's something very powerful about people engaging with one another in a way that they're not able to, like maybe in their workspace. Like they see another Black person in tech and their eyes light up, and it's just like, oh wow, like I can go and talk to you about tech, but I can also talk to you about hair problems, right? Like
it. Yeah.
there's a specific um thing, like there's this cultural part of that like you said, like that safe space. And it doesn't necessarily mean safe from physical harm, but that just one of my friends, and I think this is kind of like a premier example, smart dude, he's out of Austin, Texas, software engineer, one of the smartest people I've ever run into. And he was part of Bit like way back in the early 2000s, like when I first started Bit. And I got to know him through Bit, and I ended up going to South by Southwest in Austin one year and actually stayed at his house.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, like, it's not about the tech part. He said, because I can go to any conference and talk about tech, right? Like I can
Mm-hmm.
talk tech with anybody. It's, hey, can I talk to you about tech and then pivot from that and talk to you about Wu-Tang? And I
Yeah.
was just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, yeah, you're right. Like those types of
Mm-hmm.
conversations. Not saying that white people don't listen to Wu-Tang. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that commonality, that cultural piece that we have is huge from a a safe mental space, right? Just being
Mm-hmm.
able to talk about that period, like out of the blue, like it might not have anything to do with anything. Yo, you listen to that new so and so album? Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah.
about it? Oh man, that's dope. I like this. Like those conversations, and it not necessarily about music, but it could be about other things. Might not happen at any of these other
Mm-hmm.
type of conferences. So
Yeah.
that level right there is powerful, and I like seeing that because I've seen it at BitCon. Like we did the step show, but even outside of that, there was like this segment that's is captured on video where these people are dancing to Beyonce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, when are you going to see that? When are you going to go to another tech conference and see a group of young men and women out there excited about tech, excited about being, but in dancing to Beyonce, like love it,
Mm-hmm.
like that that camaraderie, that fellowship that you feel right there. Like that's what I love to see.
Yeah,
That's what I love to see.
100%. And if I could say one more thing, I'd be remiss to, like, if I don't
Yeah,
say
yeah.
this as well. We, like, our chapter, we help Black owned businesses in the area too, because we have such a
Mm,
huge member base. I think we're over, like, I think last time I checked, we were like 731. I know there's like chapters that are larger, but that's pretty sizable for Raleigh-Durham.
yeah.
And so we use our platform to make sure that we support Black owned businesses, right? Like even like the
Nice.
ice cream social for the culture, like, you
Mm,
know, she's always supported our chapter. And then when she was going through trouble, she called upon us. And sometimes when,
mm.
if something's going wrong in Raleigh-Durham, sometimes God will send a chapter like RDU to come help solve a problem,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what we do. A lot of like, even we
Very
have a
nice.
photographer that we use, was a friend of mine. He's an entrepreneur, and he's done photography for about 3 or 4 of our events.
Mm.
And from our events, he's gotten so much business. He
Yeah.
the first time he did something for us was the melanin mixer.
Mm.
I wanted him for the SAS event, but he wasn't available. But if we ever run it back with SAS again, I'm like, you got to use my guy Rio.
Yeah.
So he did the melanin mixer. Man, he was washing my car here because he has a car detailing service. He was like, dude, I don't
Okay.
know what you do, man, but I see you all the time. Like, what do you do? It's like, yeah, I do this. He's like, hey, man, I do photography. I saw y'all be having events. He's like, man, y'all ain't got to pay me. I'll come do it for free. I was like, you sure? Because we want to support you. He was like, no, bro,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
me just come show you what I can do. He came to the melanin mixer, man. Those photos that you see, man, that was all him. And from
Nice.
that event, he's been booked and busy ever since October.
That's nice.
Ever
That's what's
since.
up.
Members use his services, other companies use his services. The company that was hosting it, Avalar, they called him for an event, a corporate event. He's been booked and busy ever since. So in
Wow.
the last 2 events, we made sure he got paid. He
Yeah,
just
yeah.
all the photos from the Diversity Tech Connect mixer, that was all his photos. The
Oh,
video
him?
recap. And every time I talk to him, man, I'm booked, man. I'm booked for the next 3 weeks, man. If y'all got another event, you gotta let me know. And all the black
Right.
owned businesses, like they've gotten new business because of us highlighting them and people coming to our events. Oh, I've never been to Barica Soul. Oh, wow. I'm gonna bring me and my girlfriend gonna come back here next week.
Right.
So I wanted to make that a point as well, because that's another thing that I love to see. And I think that's another thing that we all on our leadership team love to see.
Yeah. That's
That we
powerful.
support the black owned businesses here in the Raleigh-Durham area. Every event for us is not going to be a tech event. Sometimes
Right.
it's just going to be a community event. Sometimes it's just
Hmm.
going to be a gathering of like minds. That's what it's
Yeah.
going to be. And I think that's what people love about us, is that I don't have to be in tech to come to an event. We tell Nesby, hey, Nesby is like our cousins. We tell them to pull up.
Mhm.
Come through.
Yeah.
Come through. National Black NBA, Latinas in Tech, North Carolina, they are new friends. We tell people to come. We want to be a beacon in the community, and then somebody
Nice.
who's not in tech, an event they come to may inspire them to get in tech. And there you go. You got a new member. So that's what we
Yeah.
do. Not to be too long-winded, but I had to say that.
No, no. Hey. No, I love it. I love it, man. I love you touching on having other organizations be a part of the festivities or the events as well. That's one thing that I wish there was more of. Um, in general, I think I think it's getting better, but I would like to see it get much better. And I say that because with this, like the Cincinnati chapter, we just co-hosted an event with a Road Pitch, a young lady
Mm-hmm.
who's actually here. She's been going to various different cities and having like this traveling like pitch competition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things that I kind of spoke a little bit, but one of the things that I said was like this is something that we need to do more of, like this level of support for one another, because this DEI, this attack on DEI is real. I just read an article today that talked about how they were about to try to use like civil rights era laws
Mm-hmm.
to go against what they consider anti-white racism, right? And I was just like,
Yeah.
it's at a point that I haven't seen it before, and I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it's because it's like social media and all that stuff but it's like at a fever pitch right now that this attack, like over the past couple of years, they've taken words like woke and made them into something negative. They made DEI into something negative, anti-black race, like they made that into negative. Now it's anti-white, like all this stuff, like to attack. So I think it's important for organizations like ours to support one another. The NASBs, the BDPAs, the efforts. Like I really do, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been hard over the years to do that. But I would like to definitely see more of it. So it's good to hear that RDU is doing that and making sure that you all maintain those tight relationships with those organizations. Before we get out of here, let's talk about like what's next for you, and let's talk about what's next for RDU. Like, what are some of the things you all are putting together for the spring and the summer that you feel people should know about?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I'll spend a short amount of time on me, and I'll spend most of my time on the chapter.
Okay.
We just mentioned the book, so I'm writing that. I got a deadline coming up, so that's very exciting. Being a first time author, getting ready to just experiencing all the things that you didn't know went into authoring a book. So that's next for me. Speaking at Dreaming in Color in New Orleans in June. And I think we're actually in the process of myself and also some other bit leaders forming a partnership with them as well. For our entire national member base. Continue to forge away at my talent acquisition career and continue to grow. But for the chapter, we got a lot of exciting things coming up. MetLife has expressed, immense amount of interest in being a chapter sponsor. And I think I talked to one of my VPs today, Tanisha. I think she said that they confirmed. So she's been really vital in spearheading and cultivating that relationship with MetLife here locally. They got a big campus just like probably 20 minutes from me. They've expressed interest in doing 3 events with us. So I'm really excited about that. That's what's coming up for us. I know our programming calendar is pretty much already booked up. We're going to do an event with Cisco. Like I said, 3 with MetLife. I think we got an event with UBS, also known as Credit Suisse, coming up. Starting to plan with that. I know LaShonda, she just forged a relationship with Durham Tech Community College, so we got some things coming up with that. Just a litany of things. It's just so much going on. But those are the key things. The MetLife chapter sponsorship is going to be huge for us. Lenovo, they're going to do some stuff with us as well. Durham Tech, what LaShonda was able to forge for us. Cisco, I think we're going to do something later on. Got a lot. And I'm probably forgetting something because we're doing a lot of incredible things, but that's really what's it for the chapter. I'm really proud of the chapter. I'm really proud of this this kind of community and nucleus that we forged. And thank you for your vision and starting all of this. None of this.
Appreciate it, man.
None of this happens if you don't have that vision and that passion to start all of this. So appreciate you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It's funny, man. I've always done audio podcasts. I've done like some video here and there. One of the reasons, and this is not me, like I don't have an ego. Like I feel like I'm the same old Greg I was from, before I started Bit. I know that, it's different now, the way, but at the same time, like I don't want people to, I feel like I'm like a servant leader. Like I don't need the accolades. I don't need the spotlight and everything like that. But someone was telling me that they feel like it's important that you show your face, right? It's important that people see you because I go to like BitCon, like, and this happens every year. I'm walking around, people don't have an idea of who I am, right? And which is cool because I like being able to just sit down with people and get like their true out there. Not saying that people are fake around me. I'm not saying, but I'm saying like people might change. They might change up depending on who you are or whatever. So I'll go and I'll talk to people and they'll be like, yeah, so, what brings you to BitCon? I'm like, yeah, I'm the founder. Oh, yeah, the founder of what? Like a bit. And they're just like, really? Yeah, I am. And they're just like, I would, I've had a number of people, I would have had no idea. Like, you're just walking around here like you're just a regular person. I'm like, I am a regular person. Like, that's how I am.
Yeah.
But, doing a video podcast is more so for, like, I would like for people to recognize me a little bit more and just to put a face to the name, so to speak, right? It's not, I don't need, news cameras around me and, hey, you done this, you done that. Like that's really not me, but I like the visual aspect of of this and not just the voices so that other people in our community can see this conversation see two black men talking, you know, and as I'm interviewing more and more chapter leaders, see a black man and a black woman talking about the tech industry, about community, about all those things, and can see themselves in us. And I think that's important. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, especially in our community, in our culture, images matter, but most importantly, positive images
yeah,
matter. And a lot of our young
exactly.
brothers and sisters coming up, they need to see positive black men, positive black women, and not only, like you said, not only hear their voice, but see them. So
Yes,
they can see us in themselves, and vice versa, right? Because I
exactly.
think, I 100% think like the imagery is 100% important. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, this was fun, man. I'm really excited that you were the first person that I interviewed coming back to the podcast. Because, like I said, it's been, man, it's been months since I did a podcast, and this being like the first video Bit Tech Talk podcast. I'm glad that you were the first person I interviewed. Really excited about what Bit RDU is doing. Really excited about you being the leader there. Hope to see you at BitCon. Are you coming to BitCon?
Oh yeah,
For sure?
I'm definitely gonna be at BitCon. We definitely gonna pull up. It's gonna be in Atlanta this year.
Okay.
We definitely coming.
Yeah. That's gonna be exciting, man. So yeah, man, I appreciate everything that you all are doing, all the RDU leadership, and let me know about that book when it comes out. Hit me up. I'm gonna put it everywhere. I'm gonna promote it. So just let me know, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Definitely appreciate having you. Take care.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for checking out this episode of the Bit Tech Talk podcast. If you liked and saw what you heard, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel and stay in tune with us for our next episode. Until then, keep stomping the divide.